Namaste. What brought you to yoga? Can you remember your first yoga class or your first meaningful yoga class? Maybe it was a meditation class, which is the classical definition of yoga, the art of meditation. Maybe a particular friend brought you to the sanctuary and something happened there for you that's memorable. I think most people who are still studying yoga after a number of years can remember their introduction. And generally, there's a short answer. Oh, yeah, my friend brought me to this great place on the corner, and that's where my practice took off. But I bet there's also a longer answer that spans over the course of your life. You can find circumstances and conditions that set you on this path and altered the course of your life. I've often been asked how I began yoga. And there's a short answer and there's a long answer. The short answer is that 27 years ago, I was medically compromised for about a year, and a lovely, kind, generous neighbor brought me a VHS tape of Lilius Folan doing yoga. It was very slow yoga. It was remedial, I would say, and it was the only form of exercise I could do at the time. And I took off with it. That's the short answer. The long answer is that I was born into a family auspicious for my yoga studies. My family is a family of thinkers and a family of teachers. And so my yoga practice it contains my yoga teaching. Teaching for me is part of the yoga practice. I not only teach practices, but teaching is the practice. And so I come from a lineage of teachers. I also come from a lineage of amateur musicians, amateur singers. And so mantra is very dear to me. It was easy for me to adopt the practice of mantra. And it has nothing to do with my voice. It's just a way of expressing myself. And so bhakti yoga came easily to me. But the even deeper answer is this, and this is my offering to you today. The day of my medical emergency that sort of set me on my path or redirected the course of my life, I found myself collapsed while running, and I had time to call the ambulance. And as I lay on my stoop waiting for the ambulance, I noticed that my body began to shut down, and all my senses shut down except for the sense of hearing. And the birds around me, it was a May morning, the birds around me, which had been a kind of ordinary chorus of birds, turned into a different kind of music. It was almost like a celestial choir, sung by the birds in my yard. And lying there somewhere between being a fully conscious human being and being totally unconscious, a voice came to me. It was not my own voice. And the voice was without color. It was without judgment or shame. It was very matter of fact, but it was also friendly. It wasn't a voice I was afraid of at all. There was kindness there. And the voice asked me 3 questions. The first question was, do you feel you need to apologize to anyone? The second question was, Does everyone you love know that you love them? And the third question was, is God's name on your lips? These questions at the time pierced me, even though my body was in such a state that I wasn't able to feel a whole lot. I felt those questions landing inside me, not only in my brain through my ears, but in my heart. And 27 years later, I remember those questions. So, without going too much into each question, I think it's worth noting that the first question about apology has to do with ethics. Am I living in line with my own ethics in community and with care and concern about other human beings? The second question was about matters of the heart. Am I connecting well emotionally with the people that I love? And am I sharing my love with them? And the third question was, of course, a matter of spirit. At the time, God was not a member of the cast of my play, right? God was not on my lips. The name of God was not on my lips. I didn't go to church. If you had asked me if I believed in God, I would have said, I believe in love. And I believe, if anything, that God is love. And so when I came out of my medical emergency and had a year to sort of set a new course for myself, which included yoga, right? That question about God was present with me every day. What does it mean to be in touch with God, to have God's name on my lips? Like right now, at the moment of it appeared to be my death. Am I familiar enough with God that that's the entity I cry to when I'm suffering, say at the end of my life? I think for me now, what has evolved over the years is that question is really asking, am I present to that which is invisible or unseen in the ordinary world? May I remain open to and in connection with celestial beings who are not in corporeal form. Am I aware that I am in connection with beings who can see my life from a much greater context than I can, being inside this body? I remember my teacher Dharma Mittra saying at one point, I don't worry about death because as soon as I'm gone, I'll be able to be everywhere all at once. It's that everywhere all at once connection that I long for and that I try to stay connected to. I try to remember that I came from somewhere and that I'm going back to somewhere and that this life happens in the blink of an eye. So, two things for you today. One is those three questions and the power of those questions for any human being. Am I living life aligned with my own ethics, with society and the culture in which I live? Am I living life well through my heart? Is my love transparent? And can I remember that there is a world I came from and a world I'm going back to, and that I may even connect with it if I'm lucky, while still in this form. And also, I think it's always a really fun thing to do to share with others the story of how you came to yoga as a path towards self-realization. It's fun to remember the friends you were with. It's fun to remember your first teachers. They may still be your teachers. It's fun to remember the awkwardness of learning down dog and up dog and standing on your head perhaps for the first time. It's a good feeling to remember that, your own beginnings as a self-realized being. And I want to leave you with this, that perhaps there is a loving being somewhere disembodied, but real nonetheless, willing to help steer you on your direction, willing to help you change course and set yourself right. And even if it's just a little bit, even if it's only 1 degree, that may set you farther on your path towards self-realization. It may be worth asking for help, for guidance, for communication with the invisible, so that that beautiful, loving presence may be alive with you here on earth. With love in my heart for this journey we're all on together in yoga. Namaste.